Okay, so here I have set up my workspace for the colorization of the characters. I start with the base colors. As you can see, my characters are all on different layers, so I usually turn off the other characters that I'm not focusing on at the moment so that I'm able to focus on just one at a time. And I started with the electric character. So at this point I'm creating a new layer. I copied his layer, and then I'm renaming them, one the base color and the other one the line art, and I'm keeping them separate at this stage. That's just in case I make a mistake, I can just start again and it doesn't ruin the line art. But before I do start with my base art, I did actually make some changes which I didn't record. So you can see here I've added in a neck for him. I did mention earlier that I kind of noticed that he didn't have a neck after I did the line art, but I've done a bit of transforming on Photoshop and given him a neck now, so it looks a lot better. His head looks a bit more straighter on his shoulders now. I also did fix up, you can see the markings weren't on his legs down at the bottom before. I kind of added that when I was doing the color test, but I added it in the line art just there. So now I'm starting the base color, and I'm just quickly making sure that I've got it set up right there by those test lines. And I really don't take much care at all when I'm doing a base color. I don't really care too much about the lines, just keeping within the lines. It is merely just getting those initial base colors down. The line art is important at this stage because obviously it shows where I need to put the base colors, but later on when I do the detail, the line art won't exist. It gets blended into the detail. After I've gotten the colors down, I'm now going back through and edging off parts where it's on his skin. So if it's outside the lines, I don't really care that much about edging it off, but if it's part of his skin, then I'll go through and edge it off. As you can see, I'm just doing that now. I'm adding in his marking on his hand there because I forgot to add that in with the line art, so I'm just doing it with the colour. So I really could have done that with the ones around his feet, but it's easier when the lines are there. It just makes life a bit easier when you're doing the colour. So yeah, the only care I'm taking here is if the hair happens to hit part of his body. Otherwise, it's just literally just slapping the colour on and getting it on there as a base. So I'm just creating the layers here that I need to work on the earth carriages, so separating the base colour layer from the line art layer. And I do like to get my colour test out just to have it as a reference. Setting my palette up here to make sure I've got the colours on hand. But before I started doing the base colour, I realised that this is the point, I realised I didn't like how her face ended up once I had done the line art, so I spent a bit of time fixing that up here. So already it's looking a lot better than it was. I do think I show a comparison in just a minute. Okay, so I'm starting the base colour now. So I've started with the blue because most of her skin is blue. It's the same process for all three characters. I'm just loading the colour on just as is and not paying too much attention to the lines, particularly the lines that end up outside of the body. The ones that come up against her skin I'm a little bit more careful with, but mostly it's just a matter of getting the colour on at this stage. It's a bit tedious, this process, but it's definitely, well, I think it's the easiest way to do it. I think I felt like her skin was too light a blue at that point. the vine was a little bit of a pain because I did have to make sure that I got colour in there without going too far outside of, particularly when the vines are on her body. So I had to be a little bit careful there, but it didn't take too long. So I'm moving on to the fire character now. So once again, I just set my palette up, which makes life a little bit easier. I can pick my colours straight from the page. So I started with her skin. She has actually three. She ended up with three main colours rather than two. But purple and red is still the main ones. I just felt like her skin needed a separate colour. It wasn't, when I made it red, it just wasn't working. So turning it into the browner shade was worth it in the end. As you can see, my colour test next to the picture there has more than three colours. I've got some oranges and some pinks in there too, but I actually didn't end up doing that because I just felt like it was a bit too much and I needed her to be just a little bit more simple. So it did work out in the end. And that's the end of the base colour process. So in the next tutorial I will be doing the details of the three characters.